The Chicago Bulls continue to hold the trade value for Alex Caruso extremely high, downright turning teams down in calls for Alex Caruso. But today, according to Jake L Fischer, we know what it would take at least for the Bulls to even consider trading Alex Caruso. We're going to get into all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform I happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into it. So we've known for a while now that the Chicago Bulls are not interested really in trading for Alex Caruso. Now, many Chicago Bulls fans have thought that maybe the Bulls are missing the mark again if they decide not to trade a player who, while is a very talented player and an important part of the Bulls culture, has one of the highest trade values right now in the market of any Bulls player that's on the roster. Well, according to Jake L Fischer, the Chicago Bulls continue to turn down teams that are calling on Alex Caruso, but they hold a value of at least multiple first-round picks back if they were to even consider trading Alex Caruso by this year's NBA trade deadline. Now, this falls in line with what we've heard for months, basically since the season started in Alex Caruso. It will take at least 2 first-round picks to get Alex Caruso back. When you see what teams have gotten back for like an OG Anunoby, even, with Terry Rozier recently getting back a heavily protected first-round pick, it makes sense that the Bulls hold Alex Caruso at that value. It's not just what the open market value is, it's what that current team holds as well and what they could do. Now, in this article by Jake L Fischer, he actually talks about the Milwaukee Bucks being interested in Alex Caruso to bring that defense that team is sorely lacking, even though they have the offensive firepower. Now, keep in mind, if the Bulls were to make a trade for Alex Caruso with the Bucks, their first-round picks aren't really going to be worth much of anything, right? And so just starting at 2 first-round picks at the bare minimum, it makes more than enough sense for the Chicago Bulls, and that's going to apply to really any other team interested in Alex Caruso, because more teams that are going to be interested in him are going to be playoff caliber teams or championship caliber teams that are looking to make that push to stay ahead of the pack. With that said, so it makes sense when you hear it. Now, I know that, you, like I said, you have that Bulls community that are on two sides of the fence, right? You have the Bulls fans that say, no, why are we moving Alex Caruso? He is so important to what this team brings. He's so important to just being that ultimate role player that just does a little bit of everything for the Chicago Bulls and where they are right now. And keep in mind, the Bulls basically since November have one of the better records in the NBA. There are only like 3 teams that have been winning at the rate that Chicago Bulls have been able to win at since December started. And so, the Bulls, of course, at being that team that still wants to compete, what are they competing for? That's one of the bigger questions here as well. But to hear that they hold that value so high for Alex Caruso, not to say that they may not get it. And one thing that I say, like in the Zach LaVine trade rumors and topics, is that as you get closer to the trade deadline, more teams are willing to kind of give up more if they truly feel like this is the year that they can make that move. And with Alex Caruso being an easily matched contract at a $9.5 million per year with another year left on it, it's that they're not at the risk of like the Terry Rozier trade or even potentially trading for Zach or DeMar, which DeMar doesn't have his contract expires at the end of the season, but getting so much salary back that it could push you towards that second tax apron. Alex Caruso sits in a place where if the Bulls are going to move him, they really have a shortened amount of time where the value is going to be as high as what it is. Now, that's not to say that I think the Bulls should move Alex Caruso. It's just you don't want to be behind the 8 ball yet again for the Chicago Bulls. The age that Alex Caruso is at, the fact that his athleticism has not even remotely started to decline, and the fact that he's on a contract that the scale of it is amazingly as far as the value of what he can offer to your team. This is the time where if you're going to move on Alex Caruso, the time's probably now to strike, even if they do decide to wait on to it, maybe review it next year, and they can't come to the contract extension, so they decide to move off Alex Caruso. At that point in time, that value becomes less because you don't have that buffer year in there of that additional year, and the team would have to pay him in free agency. Yeah, they get his bird rights, but they'd have to immediately pay him that next offseason in free agency. And I tell you what, barring injury or any crazy fall off, Alex Caruso signing for $9.5 million is not going to be. You're going to probably be paying upwards between $12 to $15 million per for Alex Caruso at the minimum when it comes down to it when he does hit the open market. So that's something that teams also have to look at when they're trying to trade for Alex Caruso if they want him at this trade deadline. Now, are the Bulls kind of playing things close to the vest? Could they be keeping this value so high for Caruso to make sure they get the most assets back? Yeah, there's a potential of it, but I think ultimately they look and they see what they are. Yes, Alex Caruso would be a dream for a team like the Milwaukee Bucks. He would fit Heat culture very amazingly well, just throwing teams out there at this point. Of course, the Lakers would love to have him back, right? But the value that the Bulls have him on, being on this roster, the fact that they would want multiple picks, and that's if they even truly consider moving him. It says in this, that's if they even. If is the big part in this. And there are going to be Bulls fans that like that. There's going to be Bulls fans that don't like it. But I think it's this, right? And it comes down to a couple of different factors for me. The Bulls front office right now keeps selling us on something that's not happening in reality. They keep selling us on they want to be this team that's competing and contending, not for a title, but for playoff spots. But we keep being this team that's fighting to be the 9th seed in the Eastern Conference. Now, don't get me wrong. The Bulls are playing at a much better pace right now that had they started off the season playing this way, we would be 6th, 5th seed, something like that. But the fact of the matter still remains that's not where we are right now. And if the Bulls are truly going to hold on to a player like Alex Caruso while also telling us that they want to still get win-now pieces and be this competitive team, then make moves to support this team. If you're not going to trade Alex, fine. I think all Bulls fans will be happy with that. But then find a way to strengthen what you have now. You're sitting on exceptions you're not using. You're sitting on Lonzo Ball's contract. We hear rumors that you're being interested in moving it. You're not moving it. Stop trying to sell us something that isn't the result of the product that you're putting out there on the court. If you want to compete, if you want to be this team that's fighting for something, then truly fight for it. Truly go for it. Stop sitting on your hands and not putting us in a place where we're going for the things that you're telling us you want to do. Bulls fans could deal with us being a younger team that is supporting and developing our young players while we're trying to find a win. It would suck, don't get me wrong, but Bulls fans would go for that. But when you sit in these press conferences at the start of the season and tell us things like, we truly think we can compete, we want to contend, we went 14-9, we think that's reason to believe that we can be better the next season, and we're sitting here in the same exact place that we were last season, that is the struggle and the problem that the Bulls fans have with this front office that is supposed to be leading this team to a new place. So at this trade deadline, it's not that I want to see the Bulls trade Zach. It's not that we want to see the Bulls necessarily trade DeMar. It's not that we want to see them trade Alex Caruso, but we want where we're going and what it seems like we're doing to make sense with what the front office is telling us. Make your actions match your words. We've been winning more. Love to see it. Kobe's been growing. Love to see it. Billy Donovan's been coaching better. Love to see it. But we're still in the same place as a 9th seed. A 9th seed. Now, we're probably going to finish better than that if we keep playing the way that we've been playing. But other teams are making moves to stay where they are or to increase where they're going. The Bulls are still this team that gets lucky. Kobe White hitting this growth and development has been amazing. But if it wasn't for that, we'd be lower than the 9th seed. We'd be out of the play-in tournament. So you got to ask yourself, and this is something for the front office to ask. Again, I'm a Bulls fan. I'm gonna rock with anything that's done as long as it's successful and it ends up in this team winning. And that's what we want as a fan base so much. Just win. And I know that's an oversimplification. It's easy just to say that. But get us in a position where the moves that you're making make sense. It doesn't make sense to tell us that you want to compete, that you want to get to the second round of the playoffs, that you want to be better than what you were when you won one playoff game against the Milwaukee Bucks, but you don't make the moves that signify you truly want to get there. You truly want to get there. Other teams see players that don't work, they eventually move off on them. Bulls see players that don't work in like a Javon Carter, and we sit there and wait on it. We wait on it. What are we doing? And that's what this trade deadline, I hope, brings it more than anything for the Chicago Bulls team is clarity. And clarity in the fact that your actions and what you're doing with the roster match the results of what we're seeing on the basketball court, and you're supporting the players that are giving their all and fighting and competing and beating these teams, that you're supporting that with increasing the overall talent on this roster. So we're not just fighting for a play-in spot. We're a team that's actually getting there, and we can see where the arrow is moving up. Because right now, This team is still betting on and hope and luck. Let's hope that another player makes a step. Let's hope that we get lucky and our first round pick next year can come in and do some things. Let's hope we get lucky and we can move Zach LaVine. This front office, and whether they decide to trade Alex or not, whatever they do at this trade deadline, bring clarity and let your actions match your words. And let's see if that ends up coming. Make sure you guys are following the show at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, thanks to you guys. And like I like to end everything on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you right if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.